and welcome to MeowMix, the Carolina Panthers podcast. My name is Steven.
My name is Jerry.
And today we are here to do our season recap. We're not going to relitigate everything that we've talked about over the last podcast, where we kind of did a season recap on our last show in terms of the recap for the Bucs game.
Yeah.
But we are going to talk about some statistics, some things we like, things we didn't like, and we're going to go through the annual MeowMix Awards show, where we hand out some hardware, digital hardware.
Hardware, yeah.
To players, coaches, things best plays, best moments, things like that. So it should be a fun show. Bring a little bit of levity maybe to Panthers Nation right now.
Yeah.
Desperately needed.
I mean, you were getting upset as fans being so negative, and I was right there being negative. So,
well, I'm just ready to start thinking positively about the team again, and looking forward to the season. This season sucked, and it was really depressing, and it was really. It kind of affected me. And then just seeing, everybody saying, just such negative things about every part of the Panthers franchise just really kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. Like, it made me feel bad, really depressed. And so I sort of stepped away from Twitter for a few days and still am away from it, really. I understand. I completely understand how everyone feels. I'm just trying to be optimistic, and I can't ever stay mad at anybody or anything that I care about, that I really, really care about. I always just, 10 minutes after a fight with my wife, like a knockdown drag out, not physical, but just really, I'm coming back. I'm sorry. You're the best. I love you. Things like that. I feel like that's what I'm doing with the Panthers. And by the way, I'm the best husband in the world. But so to see all the negativity and everything, it's tough.
See, yeah, you were messaging me. You were messaging me on Monday, and I was like, dude, I need some time to be angry because I was pissed that we were still keeping Matt Rule. I'm still pissed that we were keeping Matt Rule.
Yeah.
But I am not as pissed as I was. I was making the memes. You
were leading the charge.
I was on that Twitter. If you go back in history of our Twitter account or our Reddit account and you see like a lot of angry stuff about Matt Rule being kept, yeah, that was me. Because I was not happy. And I'm still hoping he gets fired.
You say it was Monday, just a day after the season, but this has been our mindset for like the past 2 months, really. Ever since the Panthers kind of started losing, it's been fire Matt Rule, fire Matt Rule, fire Matt Rule. Matt Rule doesn't get fired. It's still fire Matt Rule, fire Matt Rule, fire Matt Rule. Well, David Tepper's not going to fire Matt Rule.
I still have hope.
Well,
Houston just fired their coach.
Yeah, that's true. Anything could happen. But I'm going to assume, based on it not having happened so far, based on what Matt Rule has been saying, and that we haven't heard anything from David Tepper, that Matt Rule is going to stick around. So if that's the case, then I'm kind of ready just to, okay, he's sticking around. What else can we talk about? That's where I am.
Well, let's go ahead and look at the season.
I'm bored of talking about Matt Rule. It's just, I'm bored.
Let's look at some stats over the season. Kind of look at the year in review. Talk about what we liked, what we didn't. Unfortunately, quarterbacks passing is the first thing that comes up. Sam Darnold started 11 games. Cam Newton started 5. PJ Walker started 1. I don't know what to say about this group. Cam Newton, I love you, but your arm, you did not look sharp this year. I think you're best served in the future to play a backup role / short yardage back for a team. a quarterback slash short yardage, quarterback. I think he would be great at that. He could help win some games for teams.
He could get paid. Taysom Hill is getting paid. Like
exactly.
And Cam Newton still has a lot of skills that, even just in the locker room, like Cam Newton is a valuable piece. And, I'd love for Cam to be back here. And, there's a lot of things that would have to happen for that to happen. But I agree. I think Cam still has a lot of value, just not as a 17 game starting quarterback.
I think he would be very beneficial because the way he sounds like he's willing to take that backup role now. I think he would be good for a 2 or 3 year starter who is on the cusp of becoming or already a playoff team or like just someone he's not going to unseat, like a Justin Herbert, like a Joe Burrow, but can also help him out with that leadership and stuff like that, or dealing with all the other intangibles that comes with being the guy in the city.
Yeah. And I think would be really good options because those are teams that are poised to win. And like you said, teams with young quarterbacks who are really good, who the fans aren't going to be clamoring for Cam Newton to come in there and be the guy. But if they had to, those teams are good enough everywhere else that Cam could probably be fairly successful.
And I think he would be a good mentor. I really do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people judge him wrongly with his rookie introduction into the NFL. I think he'd be a good mentor for a younger guy like that.
Agreed.
Sam Darnold, who I thought he was, he sucked. Okay, moving on. I don't want to go through Sam Darnold.
Don't need to talk about Sam Darnold. No. Let's move over to defense. I just kind of want to talk about general defensive rankings. So we've heard Matt Rule talk a lot about the second ranked defense in the league, blah, 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 blah. Yes, generally defenses are ranked by total yards per game. And in that metric, the Panthers were the second ranked team in the league. But if we look a little deeper into the defensive rankings, passing yards per game, Panthers fourth. That's still really good. Now, there are reasons for that. Generally, teams were not passing a lot in the second half against the Panthers, certainly in the fourth quarter, because a lot of these games were just out of hand. They didn't have to, which goes into rushing yards per game. Panthers 18th in rushing yards per game. Panthers 16th in total sacks, so right in the middle in sacks. 21st in points per game allowed. 28th in takeaways, which I think is
huge.
Honestly, one of the reasons that the Panthers were not able to win a lot of games this year is they weren't not able to create turnovers. And I think they were next to last in the league in turnover differential. So obviously making too many turnovers, not able to get any turnovers.
And I think a lot of the turnovers too is the fact that teams could run on them over and over again. Yes, they were so good against the pass, but they didn't have to be so, so you didn't have the quarterback dropping down for the 3rd and 18, the 3rd and 12 all the time trying to force pass with Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick, messing up that throw and having one of the DBs be able to pick it off or even a sack fumble, I felt like that was probably a good contributor why our turnovers were so low.
Yeah, agreed. And that passing stat it's so misleading, honestly. So, and really the yards per game is misleading too, because the Panthers were turning the ball over on the other side of the field so much that teams were just able to go down and score and not have to rack up yards. So I think that's a bit misleading as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I know for a while we were talking about how our defense was just tired and started giving up scores because the offense 3 and out or, a slow drive or a quick drive of 5 plays and then all of a sudden a turnover and they get the ball at the 50 or 40 of us. Yeah. So a couple of good things. Hassan Reddick, 11 sacks. Brian Burns had 9, but no one else. Etor Gross Matos had 3.5, and he had 2.5 in one game. I mean, he didn't play a lot though. So where's the other guys? Where's Derek Brown and the middle guys? Where's the other linebackers or Morgan Fox? Where were they?
Yeah. I mean, one thing we knew about Derek Brown when he came out of college, he's not really a pass rushing tackle. We were hoping that maybe he would morph into that, and maybe he will. He's still very young. But Morgan Fox really didn't contribute much at all. Etor, like you said, one really good game, and that's kind of it. Linebackers didn't do much at all in terms of pass rush, at least in terms of production. Jeremy Chin was moved back into the safety role, so he wasn't rushing the passer that much. It was a strange season where there's so much talent, but didn't get the production. And a lot of that now, I think, is technique. And maybe one of the reasons why the defensive line coach was fired, because we saw a lot of Brian Burns going for strips and not going for tackles, not going for sacks. And I bet there were 4 or 5 times where he could have sacked a quarterback and he went for a strip and missed, and the quarterback either ran out of the pocket or was able to complete a pass.
Yeah. No, I agree.
The Burns' numbers could have looked a lot better.
The one thing I do want to say, though, is when you said Derek Brown, was it that he was that last year? He had the most pressures by a defensive tackle rookie ever, and I think he was second
but he didn't have these sack numbers.
So, yeah, he doesn't get there, but he gets there, but the quarterbacks are getting in the way because he still had 9 quarterback hits, third in our team this year. So he is getting back there. He's just not getting back there fast enough. Just half a second late. Yeah. Just want to not try to critique him. I just want to say, hey, he wasn't as bad as it sounds.
Right.
I mean, he was 4th in the team with sacks anyways, with 3.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Congratulations.
That's a sad stat.
Yeah.
Stefan Gilmore really led the way for the corners. J.C. Horn had a really great start. Really hope he kind of comes back, plays like he did at the beginning of the season, especially if we get Gilmore back, CJ Henderson. I hope you develop because you did not look good here. Yeah,
CJ Henderson, questionable. I mean, both you and I, everybody liked the move when it happened.
I still think you have to make that move. Yeah.
Yeah. But so far, there has not been a return on that investment. So hoping that a full off season, maybe with Stefan Gilmore here, if they can get him re-signed.
I would love that.
And have Stefan Gilmore kind of tutor both he and J.C. Horn, I think would be amazing for the team. I really hope they get that deal done. I think that's maybe the second most important signing they could have in the offseason. The corners were really surprisingly good this year. I mean, that was a weakness on the team last year, and this year Dante Jackson really turned up the heat and played really well for 75% of the season. Kind of as did everyone else on defense. He kind of backed off a bit towards the end of the season, but for a while there, I think he was one of the better corners in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, really there was a lot of good improvements in the secondary. So I was pretty happy with that. Certainly was one of the strengths of the team early on.
I still think it was probably the strength of the team for the most of the season, even towards the end, even with Dante Jackson going on IR, with J.C. Horn going on IR. I mean, AJ Boye was in and out of the lineup. I mean, I feel like this team, even the younger guys, I keep mentioning his name, Keith Taylor, like, he surprised and played well. I mean, and I feel like that was Rashawn Melvin, played well. Miles Hartsfield played well, even though he's listed as a safety. He was down at corner a lot, too. Played well for the most part.
Agreed.
So that secondary coach, hats off to you, man. You did a great job this year.
Yeah. One place that maybe was a little underwhelming was wide receiver.
Minus,
DJ Moore. Go ahead.
I was gonna say minus the steadfast of 1,200 yards, 4 touchdowns every year.
I was gonna say DJ Moore was DJ Moore. Doesn't score a lot of touchdowns, but he gets a lot of yards. Now he had some drops this year that were a little unfortunate, more I think than he's had so far in his career. But Robbie Anderson was just kind of collecting a paycheck. Terrace Marshall didn't get a lot of playing time. Shi Smith didn't get a lot of playing time. Zylstra was Zylstra, made a few plays when he had the opportunity, but that's kind of it.
Yeah, I like Zylstra as what he is, that bottom of the roster, special teams player. He can make some plays, but that's it. I don't think he's ever going to become that top tier receiver or, starter receiver, but he's good for that role. Can you guess who, I don't know if you had the stats up, who was the third leading receiver on this team with receptions?
With number of receptions?
Mm-hmm.
Probably CMC, right?
Yeah, CMC, and he only played a few games, so 7 games.
I don't have the stats up, by the way.
Okay.
That's how much I know the Panthers.
And then right behind him is Amir Abdullah with 35.
That doesn't surprise me. He probably got all of those in the last 3 games of the year.
Yeah.
Consider how much they played him. Yeah, receiving wise, not great. And since you kind of talked about the running backs a little bit, let's go there. I don't want to step on some of my awards here, but Chuba was better than I thought in terms of statistics, and he put up decent numbers considering he had like 9 games with less than 10 rushes per game. He still had over 600 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. Obviously CMC didn't play a lot. Played 6 games, I think, 6 full games. Was putting up good numbers in those games, but couldn't stay healthy. And then Amir Abdullah brought in, middle of the season, really took over that receiving back role, and a little too often took over the running back role as well. But kind of pretty down year for the running backs.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chuba would have benefited from Matt Rule sticking to his guns and running the ball more on close games. Again, of course, when you're like down 2-3 scores in third and fourth quarter, you have to start passing. But early in the game, they went away from the run way too quick, in my opinion. It felt like Chuba every time he needs a rhythm. I was waiting for them to actually try to workhorse him, but they never wanted to try to workhorse him.
Yeah. Agreed. Let's see. Offensive line was terrible. I don't even know if we need to go through the stats there.
Taylor Moton, you're the best one. Got it.
Yeah, they had like 13 different starting lineups. Just terrible. Brady Christensen, I guess, get a shout out to him. He was able to start at left tackle last couple games of the season, and he played well. He was one of the higher graded players on the team, so on offense at least. So I believe we'll see more of him at left tackle next season, based on what Matt Rule said in his press conference or his interview with Mac Attack as well. So where do you want to go next?
Little hats off to Zayn Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you ended on IR. I don't have your exact stats. Here we go. 90% field goal percentage.
Mm-hmm.
So hats off to you. He did miss 1 extra point, but okay, it's moved back. That happens.
And that was like his first or second game, I think. Yeah.
So Zayn Gonzalez, way to lock down that role, and look forward to seeing you next year, even though there should be another kicker in camp. Just saying.
Yeah, agreed. Now, we've kind of given our thoughts overall on the season. Go back and listen to our Bucks recap show if you want us to kind of get into the nitty gritty there. But
and depression.
Overall, depression.
And depression.
Yeah, that was really kind of cathartic. But we do want to give some awards out for this season because there were some good standout performers. There's also going to be some awards that you might not want to win that we're going to give out. So
I always like to do it. In my fantasy league, we always had, for a long time, we had the actual trophy that we would hand out, and then we had a shit trophy that was a garbage can that had a toilet on top of it. So,
For the worst team in the league.
yeah.
So yeah, maybe we'll give out a trash trophy here, but so I guess you want to start out with the most improved player. Who you got?
Most improved. I put this on the list, and I really can't tell you a most improved player off the top of my head. I'm going to actually say Dante Jackson. Even though he did struggle towards the end, I feel like he really stepped up this year.
Yeah.
He was really looking elite up until a couple games.
I like that one. I went with Shaq Thompson. I thought he had a really, he, especially the first, probably 60, 70% of the season, played really, really well. And he was the guy that we always hoped he would turn into. So I'm going to go with Shaq in terms of my most improved. I think he really stepped up.
Yeah, I could get with that one too. He really did look good for a good portion of the season. Yeah. Now we're moving on to the best rookie.
Rookie of the year. I mean, to me, this is kind of a no-brainer. It's got to be Chuba. I mean, Chuba had the biggest impact of any rookie. 612 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns, also added 174 receiving yards and a touchdown. So, almost 800 total yards, 6 touchdowns, and only, like I said, 9 games with less than 10 rushes. So he really only played like half the season as the featured running back. And even then, he wasn't the featured running back the last couple of games. So I'm going to give it to Chuba as the rookie of the year.
And he was the only Panther that had 100-yard rushing this year.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll go with Chuba as well. I mean, it's almost an incomplete, realistically, just with all the injuries and Matt Rule not wanting to play the starter or the rookies this year. So,
all right, best offseason signing. Best offseason signing. Now, I fudged on mine a little bit. I just went best signing.
Okay.
I'm
going to go with Hassan Reddick. I felt like that's almost a no-brainer. You have to say 11 sacks. He was a nightmare. He's going to get fat pay this offseason by somebody if it's not the Panthers.
So I figured I gave Hassan Reddick a different award here. So I'm going to say Zayn Gonzalez as the best signing.
I get that.
Again, not an off-season signing, but I thought he, probably had the second biggest impact of signings, just in terms of being a rock solid kicker, someone that could be relied on to make really kicks of any distance. I mean, it seemed like his leg got stronger as the year went on. So, I went with Zayn Gonzalez there. Obviously, Hassan Reddick is the best signing, but I tried to spread my awards out a little bit.
I get what you're saying. I completely understand that. Now, worst off-season signing, or for you, worst signing?
No, it's off-season for sure.
Okay.
Who you got? Well, actually, you went first last time, so I'll say who I got. I went with Cam Irving. Left tackle. Played, he's hurt a lot. Thought that there was a better left tackle option on the roster the entire season in Brady Christensen, who didn't get to play because they invested in Cam Irving. So for a myriad of reasons, I went with Cam Irving as the worst signing.
I went with Denzel Perryman just because they didn't even want to try to see what he had. I mean, he lit it up in Vegas, went to the Pro Bowl.
Yep.
And Jermaine Carter, he didn't take that step up that we were hoping. He actually was the liability on defense for most of the season. So I feel like that was a worst off-season signing just because of the way they handled it. And they should have kept him and he could have been good. I mean...
Yeah, it's actually a good signing. They just screwed it up by letting him go.
Yeah. I mean, you could always throw Pat Elflein in there if you want to say that's not...
I thought about Pat Elflein, but given that he took over the center position and wasn't a total disaster the last few games of the season, or when he played, and really, honestly, if he wasn't there, I don't know what they would have done.
He was better than Sam Tecklenburg.
He got a little bump up from me over Cam Irving. But yeah, those were the two that I was really considering.
Yeah.
Biggest surprise player of the season. So I'm going positive surprise player of the season. Who you got?
I got Frankie Luvu.
Frankie Luvu.
I felt like every time he saw the field, he was making plays. I felt that they should have probably started playing him a little bit more towards middle of the season, but they still kept him in that more of that spot duty. But Frankie Luvu gets it. I really hope we re-sign him. When we signed him, I literally called him bottom roster special teams guy. That's it. Maybe make the roster, maybe not. And towards the end of the season, I was saying that guy needs to play more. So hats off to you. You outplayed what I expected by lights and miles.
He was so good that he was also my positive surprise of the year. 1.5 sacks, 43 tackles, a forced fumble in sparing playing time, or not a ton of playing time. So love Frankie Luvu. Hope that he's back next year.
Yep.
On the other side, disappointment of the year, and I bet we have the same guy here too.
Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
I went with Robbie Anderson. Just considering the investment, 519 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns, 7 drops that he was credited for. I feel like it was probably more than that.
That was in one game, right? Because
I feel like he had like at least 4 in one game, I think. But they have him credited with 7 drops for the season. Definitely feels like it was more than that. But
I know somebody who calls him Sir Drops a lot.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So yeah, he was my disappointment of the year.
I'm gonna go Christian McCaffrey because you were healthy so long, and then all of a sudden last year you had the injury. I get it. Then this year, same thing. I mean, I was so disappointed because I was expecting you to finally bounce back, be healthy. You said it. You were 100%. You were all great. Disappointment, man.
Yep. All right. Least valuable player of the year. So this is where I put Christian McCaffrey as the LVP.
Oh, okay.
Just considering the investment, second year in a row now that he's just not given us anything. Can't count on him. And when he's down, the offense is toast, as we saw. So he was my LVP.
And mine is Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I mean, there was towards those first 3 games, I thought I was wrong, but then those other games, I was right. I knew I was right. I forget which game. I think it was New England, and he was just so bad. We had chances to win that game. The other players put him in position, and he just bad throw after bad throw, interceptions. It's just
bad. The thing that saved him from the LVP for me was the fact that when he was out, the team was the same. Regardless of whether he was in or out, the offense was basically the same. There was just no difference. So I don't know if he's the problem or, if all the quarterbacks just sucked equally or what. I mean, that kind of saved him from the LVP for me. Also, I just didn't want to put him on my list. I just didn't want him on my paper.
I get that. I vomit every time I see his name too.
Yeah. All right. Let's go back positive. MVP. So I broke mine down into the offensive MVP and defensive MVP. So if you want me to go first, I can go first.
Go ahead. I'll do the same because I could probably come up with a couple. So.
I'm sure. I mean, there's really 2 obvious options. Maybe 3, maybe a couple on defense, but offensive, it has to be a DJ Moore. 1,157 yards, 4 touchdowns. Again, I wish he would catch more touchdowns. This has been my problem with DJ Moore since the beginning, is he just doesn't catch a lot of touchdowns. He's not a red zone threat, but he is obviously the best wide receiver on the Panthers right now. And I would say he's one of the better ones in the league. So DJ Moore, offensive MVP for me. And then defensive MVP, I went with Hassan Reddick. 11 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 37 tackles, again, on a cheap contract, and should have made the Pro Bowl. Didn't, but felt like he really was a catalyst for the defense.
Yeah. I agree 100% with both of those. And those, if I was doing offense and defense, that's what I was going to do. So I'm going to make jokes out of my MVPs. And offense, I'm going to give it to Taylor Moton because he had to learn so many names this year in the offensive huddle. Like, so many. And he did a good job, like, learning names, blocking there. Sure. And defensive, I'll say Stefan Gilmore for coming off that injury and looking like a Pro Bowler once he came back. I mean,
almost was a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
He was a Pro Bowl alternate in very limited time. So congrats to him as well.
So I guess I'll do like my MVP, like secondary list for that because I agree with your top list.
Yeah, I think those are two good guys too. And you got to throw Burns in there as well. I mean, he the only Pro Bowler on the team, had a really nice season. So.
I was hoping he would get double-digit sacks. He still hasn't done it.
Yeah. Best play or moment of the season. So this one I threw in there because I thought there was a pretty clear winner. But what did you have?
I had the Arizona game.
Yeah.
Cam's return, those touchdowns, that win was dynamic. It was fun. I was cheering. We thought the season was turning around. We were wrong. But it was a blast to have that week.
It was a really, really fun Sunday. The week leading up to it was really fun. Cam's first press conference back was awesome. But the moment for me was the I'm back touchdown. You know, where, I mean, I went crazy. It was so
Everyone
fun.
did.
It was so fun. It was exciting. And like you said, I honestly felt right then that the season was saved. You know, that Arizona team was the best team in the NFC at that time. I think they had the best record in the league.
They did.
Now they were without their starting quarterback, but still.
They just dominated a good San Francisco team. With
missing a good San Francisco team.
Yeah.
So the Panthers killed them. Easily the best Panthers game of the season. So that I will always remember that. You know, as bad as the season was, that moment, that whole week was just so exciting. And especially considering, you know, we had lost a few games in a row and, you know, we were just not in a good place. It was great. It was great.
Yeah.
And thank God Cam came back because otherwise this season just would have been
miserable.
Total disaster. Yeah.
I mean, another great moment. I know we just the Arizona game, but I was there at that game when Cam Newton came out of the tunnel, his first game back. That was a lot of fun, a lot of experience. Yeah. Unfortunately, the game was not a lot of fun, but
Cam played well in that game.
That moment was a lot of fun. So
yeah. Let's see. Did I have anything else? Oh, I had Coach of the Year on my list as well. Again, I think it's pretty obvious. Phil Snow did a really good job with the defense this season. I don't, you know, that's the only coach really I think that deserves any recognition.
Whoever the secondary coach is. Sorry, guy, I don't know your name off the top of my head, but I mean, like I said, the secondary was pretty lights out with a lot of different players. It wasn't just, you know, our star, you know, J.C. Horn and Stefan Gilmore. I mean, they rotated through a lot of guys, and they were still good towards the end of the season.
Yeah. And again, you know, the defense wasn't perfect. We went over reasons why earlier in the podcast, but I felt like they were improved from last year, and really they were not the problem this season at all. And really they were the reasons why we were in so many games. So, all right. Anything else?
I'm looking forward to the offseason. I've said that before, but I'm really looking forward to some free agent signings, you know, maybe the offensive coordinator signing, you know, then looking at the draft. We're going to probably start looking at the draft right away, but, you know, we're going to have a lot of things to do with that 6th overall pick, you know, because we don't have only one pick at the top 100. So are we going to trade it for more picks? Are we going to get a franchise quarterback, franchise left tackle? Who knows?
No way we make that pick, right? No way we pick 6.
I think we could. I think they
have to trade back.
I agree with you, but I think that we could take somebody. And we will discuss that in our draft profiles.
We will. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it.
Yep. We want to thank everyone for listening. If you like the show, please let your friends know. Please follow us on Twitter at MeowMix Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us at mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com. And if you leave us a 5-star review with a comment on Apple Podcasts, we'll read it on our show. Please like and subscribe on YouTube.
We will be back at some point soon. Definitely we'll be back whenever the Panthers get a little more realistic about this offensive coordinator situation. I'm sure we'll come up with some cool content for you guys over the next few weeks when it's kind of dead Panthers season. Playoffs are here, so I'm sure we'll be back before the Super Bowl and talk some playoffs and do some cool stuff. So, but I think we're going to take a little bit of time off. Might take a week off here next week and just kind of collect ourselves as Panthers fans and content creators for you guys. So hit us up on Twitter, hit us up in the YouTube comments, mailbag@meowmixpodcast.com, like Jerry mentioned. If you want to chat or you have any ideas you want to hear us talk about. But until then, everybody stay safe out there and keep pounding.
Stand and cheer for the Panthers. Stand and cheer for the team. The pride of both Carolinas and city of the Queen. Carolina! Stand and cheer for the Panthers in our grand old May. Nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina for a Panther football game. From the mountains to the ocean, Carolina, Carolina, best of them all. From the end zone to the end zone,